Let's talk about how well the EverQuest franchise is doing as a whole in 2023, talking about EverQuest 1 to EverQuest 2. So we're talking about servers that are on the most current content for EverQuest 1. There are 29 expansions for this game. 29. And I can't believe the 30th is coming out later this year. That's incredible. Now, I don't play this version of the game, but it's incredible that this game from 1999 is still receiving new content today. You know, how many MMOs can say that? The last few expansions are rehashing the golden days, with the first Kunark, Velius, and now Luckland zones being revisited. But compared to the heydays, the developer crew is much smaller and on a tighter budget, so expansions are limited in scope. For instance, the many zones released during the original Velius expansion in 2000 took 2 separate expansions to redo now. The latest expansions are often criticized for being the same formula, just copy and pasted, as well as stat inflation getting out of control. But even then, we have to keep in mind this is a very small dev crew on a limited budget. It's very impressive what they're able to do, considering those limitations. They are keeping the game alive in one form or another, and we can't fault them on that. In the back end, I think this is where they've been doing better. The developers have been steadily upgrading systems to modernize the code. In 2022, there was an upgrade to 64-bit clients for both EQ1 and EQ2. This reduced crashes, it increased both client and server performance. It should let developers create better graphics and textures for zones and mobs. But I would only expect this on new expansions though. They usually don't retouch old content. In 2023, the engine behind the user interface is getting upgraded. So it won't look different, but it's supposed to allow you to customize it more, allow you to change the scaling of the UI to work better on different resolution screens. It's a bit rough in its current state though, but the kinks will be worked out. It'll be better in the long run. But there's also a planned upgrade to DirectX 11, which might also improve game performance. So bravo to the devs for trying to upgrade the game here. This is great. How are progression servers doing? So these are servers released yearly that start at base game and unlock later expansions over time. So a few years ago, we had the Mischief server. Name mobs dropped random loot from other name mobs and everything was tradable. It hit the ball out of the park. Brilliant idea that devs came up with. It was one of the most, if not the most popular and successful progression server ever. And it's still going strong in the expansions with the highest turnover historically. Where most servers die, Mischief is still alive. Amazing. The next year, Jelinek and Vaniki. So I did a whole series here. Jelinek was your standard server with no frills. It was moderately successful, but had a lower population than prior servers of the same rule set. I really think burnout is starting to get reached, but it kind of redeemed itself. It later made one unique change that the community rejoiced about: relaxed TrueBox. So for almost a decade, every progression server was TrueBox. You could only play one character per computer. So what? What are you complaining about? Where most servers die, Mischief is still alive. Once a server is born, it's only downhill from there. Each expansion, you're going to have a marked drop in population, never to rise again. And it gets to the point after a while where there's so few people, it's hard to even play anymore. There's people wanting to keep playing, but they can't because there's no more help. This game requires a group to get anything meaningful done. So a lot of players choose to play multiple characters themselves, boxing. In the TrueBox code, this is your life. Imagine how much a pain in the ass it is to do the following. Spend $300 to $600 minimum to buy a bunch of separate computers. You have to have a huge ass desk to put those computers down. You need to deal with the oven that's going to become your room. Your power bill is going to be higher because you got more machines running and more AC running. And lastly, you're going to have to constantly swap back and forth between all those computers for an hour or two to finish anything. It stops being a game and starts being a job. That's the crap people have been dealing with for nearly a decade, as I've said. Now, Jelinek is unique because it's the first server ever dropping the TrueBox rule. You'll be able to play multiple characters from one computer. Now, if it allows you to use third-party software, even better. See my 4 levels of EverQuest cheating for an in-depth discussion on that. But eventually, during later expansions, the true box code will be gone. So back on track, with Jelinek came the sister server Vaniki, which was an experimental server where you could try to do content underleveled. There were some people who really liked it. They were dedicated, but it didn't have that strong of a population, so it died really quick. This year was the Oakwynd server. I'd argue one of the most controversial servers to date. I've never seen the EQ forums and Discord get blown up like this. 100+ forum pages of criticism. Now, almost everything about Oakwynd is great. There are stacking bonuses that unlock each expansion. You also get a bonus 10% experience for each character you have at max level on that account. So raid lockouts will be character specific too, not account wide. This is the best server ever for rolling alts. You could feasibly main 2 to 3 raid characters. That's never been possible before. Nobody has an issue with any of these bonuses. What people had a big problem with is the encounter locking feature. The community is calling it FTE, or first to engage. Quote, in short, once a mob is engaged, it will be locked to that character, group, or raid. Characters not part of the lock cannot attack or use spells on it. So this is being done to combat player toxicity, kill stealing, and power leveling crews, I think. My initial impression, encounter locking looks like it'll solve one set of problems, but then open up a whole new set of problems. So this system is ripped straight from EQ2, and it works great there. I have no complaints whatsoever. But EQ2 was designed from the ground up with this feature in mind. All the kinks were thoroughly worked out, but not so with EQ1. Our first impression of FTE on the test server was atrocious, but in the first few days of Oakwind's launch, many of those problems seem to have been patched away. It stopped bot crews from bullying you out of your camp and stealing your mobs. For the average player, encounter locking worked well, it seemed like 90% of the time. I thought this was going to fail hard, but it was wrong. We'll see over time how the system can be exploited. There definitely have been people exploiting it, but I'm pleasantly surprised by what we've seen so far. But I really wished devs tried a different solution for kill stealing. I've been pushing for quicker respawns and just getting rid of placeholders entirely on certain bottleneck mobs with high competition. Crazily enough, Oakwynd will lower respawn timers with the bonus coming around Plains of Power, Legacy of Kesha, but it's way too late if you ask me. The bottlenecks are the worst, absolute worst in Classic and Kunark, and by the time you get to Plains of Power and LOI, it doesn't matter anymore. Another suggestion in the forums I thought was even better. Copy the open tagging system that modern MMOs have, like Elder Scrolls Online. Everyone who contributes to a kill gets credit and loot. It would need to be tweaked a bit, but an open tagging system would encourage players to work together instead of hoarding mobs away and DPS racing each other. We'll see how encounter locking goes, but I think there's better solutions for this issue of player conflict. How is Project 1999 doing? So this is the most popular emulator server of EverQuest. It tries to faithfully recreate classic EverQuest as it was like in 1999 and 2000. Pre-convenience patches, vanilla, Kunark, and Velius expansions only. A very hardcore game with no hand-holding at all. So it first started out with the Blue server in 2009, which was a beta test, if you will. The Blue server was an attempt to reverse engineer the original patches of the game in Era. And when P99 devs finally completed that huge ordeal 10 years later, they could make the server they always wanted. In 2019, the Green server was launched. This server is chronologically accurate. It releases all the patches and expansions at the same speed as it was done historically. Currently, Green is the most populated P99 server, usually 1,000 players plus during peak. Groups going strong through most level ranges. It also has the most representation on YouTube and streaming on Twitch for EverQuest as a whole, more so than even officially run servers. A few years back, Project 1999 got official approval to operate from Daybreak, the rights holders for the intellectual property. So Project 1999 is in no way going to get shut down for IP theft. There's no risk of losing your character. I think as of this video, the Green server has already hit the last scheduled patch. Now, it's unclear what will happen moving forward. I think the original idea for Green was to merge all those characters over to the blue server and then restart again fresh, but that remains to be seen. I've been critical of P99 in the past, but really I was wrong. I'm glad this version of the game is still available with faults included. It's a time capsule in MMO history. You know, the live version of this game, it's just so removed from what the game used to be like when it first came out. They're not even the same anymore. So it's nice to still have this museum you can go back to. The closing thoughts, I would say play a progression server if you want to see the end game, if you want to see expansions that come after Velia's. But you should play P99 if you want the journey to end game. That's what each does best. Now, EverQuest 2 servers on the most current content. EQ2 is still going. They just released the 19th expansion called Renewal of Row. And EQ devs are kind of doing the same thing as EQ1, rehashing old favorite expansions and then updating the background code. November 2023 will release the 20th expansion for EQ2. The criticism I see here is largely about stat inflation. It's even worse than the first game, and population is really hurting. EQ1 has something like double the population that EQ2 does. But regardless, it's nice to see that devs are also keeping this game alive and updating its code too, with the 64-bit clients and then DirectX 11 coming. It runs so much better on your average PC now than it did at launch in 2004. But I don't delve much into the live versions of either EverQuest, so if you do play there, please share how you guys feel about the latest expansions. I don't have the best take on that. I hear things about them, but then I don't have the means to test them out myself. Now, progression servers for EverQuest 2. They're much fewer and far between. Maybe 2 to 3 years between each other. The newest one right now is called Varssoon, which launched around May 2022 and is seeing Fade War, Kunark, and the Shadow Odyssey this year in 2023. Those being argued the best expansions ever for the game. The population on Varssoon crushes the live servers. I think Varssoon might be the most populated EQ2 server, and it's been an amazing place to play. It also seems to get more catered attention than EQ1 servers. Like, GM events appear to be more frequent. I almost never saw a GM event on an EQ1 TLP, despite being there years longer, but I've personally seen 3 on Varssoon in a year. Varssoon might be their pet project. It's about 4 months between expansions, and they release mid-content updates halfway. A really good idea they do are called Hunters. Hunters are a daily quest where you kill 3 to 4 bosses in different group dungeons. And once done, you earn a currency that goes towards purchasing super powerful gear or adornments, stuff that's on par with the following expansion, like the best in slot shield for a tank or the best in slot ranged weapon for basically every class. And you can equip 2 items, 200 items total, and it takes about 15 runs per item. Hunters is a really good reason to log on every day after you burn out of an expansion's main content. And that's a problem that EQ overall has. People burn through content so quickly and then they have nothing to do for weeks. Hunters helps that. It has its criticisms here and there, but I think it's more positive than a negative overall. Varssoon is not without its problems though. Varssoon doesn't outright block third-party boxing software unlike EQ1 progression servers. It's not TrueBox. I've got mixed feelings about it. The only reason I'm able to play EQ2 is because I can box with third-party help from ISBoxer. You know, I got a newborn, I get interrupted so much I can't commit to groups. In a game, mind you, you need a group to get anything worth doing done. I don't have time to set LFG. When I log on, I need to hit the ground running and get stuff done. Varssoon's boxing friendliness is great for honest folks. But at the same time, I hate to see how some people are abusing it. Fully automated characters, bot software, farming game currency for free life money, and bullying the community. You know, I see why blanket bans happen, and I'm scared that it's coming. People boxing responsibly are going to get shafted because a few scumbags are ruining it for everyone, and I really don't want to see that happen. But the GMs got bought or scared. I've seen the mere hint of reporting them, and they skedaddle like that. GMs here on EQ2 seem to be doing an even better job in enforcement than what I've seen in EQ1. Too good, actually. The latest controversy is how some bad actors were weaponizing the report system, getting innocent people banned who they just didn't like. These snitches, if you will, they pulled their relationship strings with some long-term EQ2 devs to get these bans done. They private messaged their friend dev through Discord, and then the ban followed without appropriate checks. And there's been many false positives. It was becoming so widespread there was an inside joke. Next month, Varssoon's gonna be an empty server because everyone will be banned. I would bet good money I'm probably wrong about this and exaggerating, but I heard a rumor that there might have been an emergency staff meeting basically saying, guys, stop banning people from PMs. Rule breaks must be handled the official way through petitions. So hopefully this crap is over. It just really concerned me that there was a risk of getting banned just because some guy could pull strings with a dev that they're friends with. That's just out of line. But at the same time, there's some devs who are not like that at all. I've been really impressed lately. I've seen some devs, they are immediately acknowledging player feedback and taking action quickly to fix problems that come up. It happened with the mid-content release for Fadeware. For instance, for months, people have been begging for the Hunter's items to be changed into adornments, so they did that. They finally did that this update. But then the stats were a bit off, so people called it out in the forums, they made that problem known, and then very, very quickly, the devs fixed that problem almost immediately. Amazing. They were very responsive to the community, and that's the kind of stuff that builds good faith with the community on a server. You know, even if they can't make a change, just saying, hey, we hear your concerns, I think that goes a long way. You know, kudos to them. Overall, I've been very impressed by how great the devs have been here in EQ2, despite that banning crap. Overall, I think the EverQuest franchise is still going strong, despite some problems here and there. As to be expected, the devs are still trying, and that's what really matters. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and please let me know how you guys think. How is EverQuest overall doing in 2023, especially if you play on the live servers? See you in the next one.